Molineux is the venue for Leicester's next game in the Premier League as Wolves host the Foxes at 2 o'clock this afternoon. We're an hour away from kick-off. That means we can get all of today's team news with our commentary team, Matt Elliott, and first, obviously, James Fielden.
Thanks very much, Dan. Welcome to Molineux, everyone. A grey, dank, miserable day here in the Black Country this morning, but the clouds are moving, the sky is clearing, and hopefully a good game of football on the way between two of the bottom three. Massive game for Leicester as they keep on coming before that World Cup break. Team news for them today, 2 changes. James Maddison back from suspension, he's back in, we expected that. Patson Daka also starts and makes his 50th Leicester City appearance. Dennis Praet and Jamie Vardy both on the bench, where they're joined by the fit again Michael Brighton, who has recovered from illness. So they're not with Ward in goal, Castagna, Amati, Fast and Justin across the back, Tielemans, Sumare and Dewsbury hold the midfield three, Maddison, Daka and Barnes across the front. The subs today, sub-goalkeeper Daniel Everson, Jamie Vardy, Marco Brighton, Kelechi Iheanacho, Ayosi Perez, Papi Mendy, Dennis Praet and Luke Thomas. For Wolves, they've also made 2 changes, beaten at Palace on Tuesday. Coming into the side, Johnny, who replaces Nelson Semedo at right back, and João Moutinho, who replaces Boubacar Traoré in midfield. They line up with Jose Sarr, the goalkeeper, Johnny, Collins, Kilman and Hugo Bueno across the back, the youngster, Neves, Nunes and João Moutinho in midfield, Traoré, Costa and Podence across the front. It is Wolverhampton Wanderers against Leicester here from a now sunny Molineux Stadium.
Thank you very much, James. Yes, welcome along to Matchday Live here on LCFC TV. As James says, ahead of another massive game for Leicester City. They all seem really big at the moment, certainly before the World Cup, don't they? Jerry Taggart sits alongside me, Dan Bates here in the studio, and Tony Cotty joins us via Zoom for the game today. I'll start with you, Tony. Good afternoon, firstly. How are you getting on today?
Yeah, good afternoon, Dan. Afternoon, Tags.
Afternoon,
I'm great today. Really looking forward to the game. And the Premier League never ceases to amaze you, Dan, unfortunately. And what with Forest beating Liverpool yesterday, which I don't think too many of us would have predicted, it obviously puts the pressure right back onto Leicester now, dropped into that bottom position. But it's a great game for the lads to play in. And, Wolves aren't on a good run of form. They're managerless at the moment. So nothing to fear. It's all about going out and playing for Leicester.
Yeah, obviously that result yesterday means Leicester back to the bottom of the Premier League. But if you just concentrate on Leicester, in their last game they won. So presumably confidence hopefully is high heading into the game. And good afternoon, of course, to you as well.
Yeah, good afternoon, chaps. Yeah, I suppose you could say it was a bit bittersweet, wasn't it? That convincing win against Leeds on Thursday night, and then that result yesterday. But that's what happens in the Premier League. We've seen it time and time again. So was it a surprise? Probably, but were any of us shocked? Probably not, because we have seen it so many times before. So you're right, Leicester have to concentrate on themselves. They have to concentrate on that momentum that they've gained from Thursday night. Yes, it's an away game. Their away form, as we know, has been woeful, although I have to say in the last 2 home games they have looked pretty solid at the back. So fingers crossed, they have to bring that mentality, that defensive mentality, that defensive solidity into today's game if they're going to get a result. I think, out of the 24 goals that Leicester have conceded, 19 of them have been away from home. So that is an obvious area where they have to improve, and it has to start today. Full stop.
No Ewan Roberts, but Jerry's bringing the stats for us this afternoon. Which is
I'll try and bring as many as I can, useful ones.
We've got plenty to get through here on Matchday Live as we build up to kick off, of course, in just under an hour. We've got full commentary coming later, but before that, we'll take a look back, of course, at the game on Thursday. That fantastic victory over Leeds, including that brilliant team goal finished off by Harvey Barnes. We're also going to hear from Danny Ward, who spoke after the game, previewing this game against Wolves. It's back-to-back clean sheets for Danny Ward at home. And we'll look back at some classic goals as well, scored against Wolverhampton Wanderers. So yes, plenty to get through, Jerry, obviously, and I guess we can start, and we have already started by talking about Thursday, and it was just a really morale-boosting, confidence-boosting victory, wasn't it? And we'll talk about it a lot, I'm sure, but back-to-back clean sheets, obviously, that's vital, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, we analysed the Palace game. I give Palace credit for the way they defended deep. They defended in numbers. They got numbers inside their 18-yard box, made it really difficult for Leicester to break them down. You know, they had half chances if you want, but nothing clear cut. And I thought going into the Leeds game, I thought Leeds will not defend the way Palace did, and that proved to be the case. You know, and if you watch the 2 goals, it sort of proved that point. So I actually fancy Leicester strongly against Leeds. Leeds did have their chances, but they didn't take them. And when the chances came Leicester's way, they were clinical. The second half was a bit of I'm not saying it was an non-affair, it was, but I mean, as far as one team, bossing the game, that didn't really happen. Both teams sort of huffed and puffed, but Leicester had the goals in the bag, had the win, didn't need to go chasing the game. And more importantly for me, we talk about key moments in games and the decisions that you make in those key moments. On Thursday night, for the most part, their decision making under pressure in key moments was absolutely spot on. And so you didn't see any silly goals or any silly balls being given away in areas where you're thinking, clear your lines. We're seeing players clear their lines and start again. So that was a major plus in keeping that clean sheet.
Jerry made a good point as well, Tony, earlier about obviously away from home conceding goals has been the issue, but the clean sheets, as we've been talking about, hopefully that in itself will give most confidence heading into the game today.
I'm sure that's what Brendan will be most pleased about, Dan, to be honest with you. We've spoke about it before. We spoke about it on the preview shows. It's all right scoring goals, but if you don't sort that defence out, you are going to be in trouble in the Premier League. We've got a good goalkeeper, Danny Ward. We're going to hear from him shortly. But defensively, particularly away from home, it's been very, very disappointing to say the least. There's been some heavy beatings, and there's also the game against Bournemouth, which really was a massive disappointment in terms of leading, being comfortable, and then giving away those 2 really sloppy goals in the second half. One thing's for sure, Dan, you can stay up on home form alone. There's no 2 ways about that. If you can win 10, 11 home games, you can stay up in the Premier League. So in a way, the away form is a little bit irrelevant. It doesn't matter too much. We've seen plenty of teams over the years hopeless away from home, but they win those home games and it keeps them in the Premier League. Obviously we want Leicester to improve. My opinion, it's a massive false position for Leicester. There's too much talent at this football club to be in 20th position and people talking about Leicester getting relegated. I still don't believe that will happen. I think there's enough quality in the team. But, the proof is in the pudding. You have to go and get the results off the back of the 2 clean sheets. I think there must be a real confidence in the camp, in the team, and they must be looking forward to it. But they've got to go out. It's going to be a difficult game. Wolves are all without a manager. We know that. And they've been poor. But there's no such thing as an easy game. But they need to try and amend this away form, because if they do that, it does take the pressure off in terms of winning those home games I was talking about.
Yeah, the message at the bottom of the screen just a minute ago from Neil was saying 3 points would be fantastic today. Obviously, it was 3 points and a victory, wasn't it, on Thursday evening here at King Power Stadium against Leeds.
Leicester City and Leeds United enter the field here at King Power Stadium on a Thursday night under the bright lights which have guided the Blue Army up Filbert Way to cheer on a City side who have earned back-to-back clean sheets on their own patch, in which they have won 1 and drawn 1. Vardy, along with Pratt, winning the ball back, and Vardy looked to have been fouled. Referee waving play on as Dewsbury Hall finds Pratt. Ball across the face of goal, and an own goal has given Leicester City the lead. Vardy involved, and Dennis Pratt returning to the Leicester 11 with a low ball in. Cushion ball over the top to James Justin. Time to look up and pick out the cross, and Pratt arriving on the far side, headed down into the ground. It was cleared away by Llorente. Vardy was just behind. Great ball by Justin, great spot. Ball in behind, Pratt sliding and managing to hook the ball to Vardy. Dewsbury Hall, Harvey Barnes! Loves playing against Leeds United as he strokes that one home, ending a super move by Leicester City down the right. Cooper's header, an overhead kick came off Bamford. It's come back, it's a good save by Ward from Cooper's shot at his near post over on that far side. On The ball given away again. Daka edge of the area. 2 to his left, 1 to his right. It's Dennis Pratt who's tried to bend one left-footed into the top left corner from about 12 yards out right of the penalty area. Daka unselfish into James Justin. And Leicester's home run continues. Another victory. Following on from the draw against Crystal Palace and the thumping win against Nottingham Forest. It's 2-0 here tonight against Leeds.
Yeah, absolutely something to build on, Jerry. Second win of the season on Thursday. Obviously, you were on co-commentary for it, and they did what they needed to do, didn't they? Particularly in that second half.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, they didn't have to go chasing the game in the second half, and you could see that. Obviously they were trying to push forward, but Leeds were, I suppose you could say, were trying to throw the kitchen sink on it. I think they made 4 or 5 changes, Leeds, in the second half as well. Trying to chase the game, unless all I had to do was stand firm, stand strong, see the game out, and then hopefully hit them on the counter attack. It didn't quite happen that way, but they didn't concede. They didn't bring pressure, unwanted pressure, undue pressure their way on Thursday night, and that was the most pleasing thing for me after taking that lead. We've seen it before. We'll have taken the lead at home and gone on to draw and lose a game. But I didn't see that creeping in. Similarly to Palace, and that's where you hear Brendan talking about slow progress. Well, they've been in the game for the full 90 minutes, or they haven't conceded at home soft goals in the last few games, and they've been in the game for the full 90 plus minutes. And again, the other night that was the case. So, as far as the home form is concerned, good. Can they bring it into the away form? And that is obviously the issue at the minute for the club. But 2 home results, a draw and a win, no goals conceded in those 2 games, has to be a positive, has to be momentum building going into today's game.
A lot of the talk before the game, and we were talking obviously on Matchday Live, was how Leicester would cope without James Maddison. Dennis Pratt came in, didn't he, on that right-hand side, had a really, really good game. You gave him the man of the match, and he forced that first goal, didn't he? It was fantastic play. He actually won the ball back originally in the first place.
He started to move off by winning the ball back, and he created, and in this cross, it's all about the pace on the ball, and you see Cock, you think Cock actually can do better, but you're not going to see it again, but he can't. He just about gets a foot, and again, he wins that ball. He makes that ball down the right-hand side for Harvey Barnes' goal. He makes sure that he's the first one to get contact on it, to get it into Jamie Vardy. So that's great play from him. And I thought for those 2 moves alone, and obviously his work rate and his his interplay with Timothy Castagne down that right-hand side on the night, for me, he had to have man of the match. As good as Wout Faes was again.
Could he feel hard done by, Tony? Do you think that he drops out again today, Dennis Pratt, because of his performance on Thursday? But at the same time, it's understandable, isn't it? The form that James Maddison was in before his suspension.
I'm just thinking that to myself, Dan. The one thing I like about Dennis Pratt, he's a fantastic squad player. He's a type of, bit like a Michael Brighton, who I always sing his praise. He's the type of lad, good in the dressing room. Don't ever hear him moaning. No petulance, no stroppiness or anything. They're always ready and eager to come on when they play. They do the job for the team and for the squad. And I think Dennis will be. I think privately he'll be thinking to himself, "What more can I do?" Because involved in both the goals and could have scored in the second half as well, couldn't he? Had an excellent game, man of the match from Tags. Tells you everything. I didn't see the game live, Dan. I've obviously seen the highlights, but. He was involved in everything, and privately he'll be thinking, maybe I should be playing, but you have to find a place for James Maddison in the team, and that probably would have been a difficult decision for Brendan. If it had been another home game, would it have been a different decision? I don't know. Maybe just feels he gets that little bit more creativity away from home with playing James Maddison where he plays. I'm sure Brendan's got his reasons, which would be interesting to hear. surprised but not surprised, if that makes sense. You know, you've got to have James Maddison in the team.
Yeah, going forward, goals haven't been an issue this season for Leicester City. It's been at the other end, conceding too many, particularly away from home. But Danny Ward, obviously, as we've been speaking about, has kept clean sheets in his last 2 games. He's taken confidence from that, and he's also spoken to us ahead of this game against Wolves.
Danny, next up, Wolves, and as ever in the Premier League, it's always a tough game, but one you'll be looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. After the back of a nice home win, you know, a great performance against Leeds. We know they're having a bit of a troubled time, Wolves, you know, as we have had a poor start ourselves, but it's another game we've got to go into and take the same intensity as we have done in this Leeds game.
As you say, they've had that change of manager. What have you made, maybe since the change, what have you seen from Wolves that you'll be looking ahead to on Sunday?
I think it's very much the same from them. We know they've got real good technical players, you know, going forward, and in the main, you know, they've got a certain way of playing which has been quite unique, you know, starting with when Nuno was in there a few years ago. But, you know, we'll do our homework and we'll prepare right for that game.
Is it different or difficult to prepare when a team has changed manager? I suppose one more for the coaching staff, really, but you may be a little bit unsure of what to expect.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, we'll prepare as we do for every game. You know, we'll take a look and analyse things that they're good at and things that they're maybe not so good at that we can maybe capitalise on, and yeah, we'll go from there.
They've always been in recent seasons very tight games, very low scoring games. Is that what you're thinking ahead of Sunday?
From our point of view, you know, defensively, I hope so. Always good to get clean sheets, as we've managed to get that knack of recently, which always gives you a chance in games of football. So, you know, we'll go and, like I say, we'll have the game plan and we'll go and try and execute that and come away with 3 points.
You certainly go there full of confidence. Certainly the home form, the 3 clean sheets, as you mentioned, the win on Thursday night as well against Leeds.
Yeah, well, we've got to take that forward now, haven't we? You know, it's something to build on for us as a foundation. You know, clean sheets are always brilliant, but you know, we've got to stick the ball in the back of the net, and thankfully we did that against Leeds on Thursday night, and we can hopefully take that forward on Sunday.
In terms of the clean sheets and for the defence that's coming together, particularly with Wout joining as well, how much is that building, I suppose, confidence, but building that teamwork between the 4 and 5 of you?
I think it takes a bit of time. You know, Wout came in really late in the window, and it was difficult maybe to gel in straight away, but I must say he's been first class. You know, he's slotted in seamlessly there for us. You know, we've had a change recently. Johnny's been struggling with his injury, and then Daniel's come in and looked solid as well. So, you know, 3 clean sheets out of 4 and defensively, but you know, we're looking solid again.
And for you personally, how much have you looked forward to and enjoyed this season so far? Having that number 1 jersey, I suppose, particularly on the back of those clean sheets, even more enjoyable.
It's been different, a different view of the game, but no, that's what everyone wants to do. Everyone wants to play football, don't they? It doesn't matter whether you're a goalkeeper or a striker. But no, I'm loving it. Hopefully, you know, even more so when we get 3 points.
Nice to see, Tony, that Danny Ward's happy and smiling. And that comes from, obviously, the solid foundations that he's been talking about and being able to keep the opposition out in the last couple of games.
Well, it's like interviewing a goal scorer, isn't it? When he scored 2 or 3 games on the trot, you're always going to be happy. And if you interview a goal scorer and he hasn't scored for 6 games, he's going to be as miserable as anything. You know, I felt for Danny at the start of the season. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. He's got massive shoes to fill. We know how great Casper was. You know, what a great servant to the club, 11 years or whatever it was. And then you're thrown in. And then not only you're thrown in, you're also conceding the goals. And, you know, it wasn't Danny's fault. It was just a collective poor defending, really. And some, you know, a couple of real drubbings, you know, a 4, a 5 and a 6. If you're a goalkeeper, that's the worst feeling in the world, I'm sure. Walking to the back of the net and retrieving the ball out. And if you do that 6 times in a game, not a good experience. You know, he looked happy. You know, they're obviously pleased with how the team's defending now. They've sorted it out, especially with the home form. And he's a happy bunny now. But that's how it goes with football. If it's going well, you're going to be happy. If it's not going well, you're going to have one unhappy player. But we've got a very happy Danny Ward, I'm pleased to say, at the moment.
Yeah, so with Leicester's defence seemingly being a lot tighter in recent weeks, they're coming up against a team that have really struggled for goals this season.
Yeah, I think they've only scored 5 goals in the league anyway this season, Wolves, which is obviously, you know, a major issue for them. And fingers crossed that sort of lack of firepower continues today. You know, as we talked about, scoring goals, whether it's home or away for Leicester, isn't the issue. I think, you know, they've scored 8 goals away from home this season, which is almost half their total. I think they've, you know, scored 9 at home, 8 away from home. Although you have to say that they've been, I think they're conceding goals at home. Wolves, I think they've only conceded 5 at home, which is the same amount of goals that Leicester have conceded, believe it or not, and I think it is anywhere or 5 or 6. But yeah, if Leicester, for me, the key today is Leicester to try and keep that clean sheet or not concede more than 1 goal. And if they can do that, I strongly believe they can get a positive result today. So it all boils down to critical moments again in the game, their decision making in those critical moments. And if they get those spot on again like they did on Thursday night, then they're giving themselves the best possible chance. We've seen the goals they conceded against Bournemouth in particular, and there were 2 mistakes. There were two avoidable goals. And so that sort of tells you that if they don't make mistakes, then they're giving themselves the best chance possible.
Which is why I guess it is extra frustrating where Leicester find themselves in the division, because normally if a team's bottom after 10 or 11 games, then it's probably because they can't score, whereas for Leicester that's not the issue, which is a positive moving forward. And as Tony says, maybe a reason why the general consensus is in a bit of a false position for Leicester.
Yeah, I think you have to get the balance right between being an attacking team, and that means obviously Brendan wants to attack from all areas of the pitch. Likes to play through the thirds, likes to get his full-backs into aggressive forward positions to try and be creative. But especially away from home, sometimes you've just got to put the reins on, put the brakes on a bit and be a bit more pragmatic on how you approach a game of football and see how the game is ebbing and flowing. Read the signs within the game, as far as have the home team got the upper hand? Are they pressurising you more than you are them? And you have to read those signs and act accordingly, play the game accordingly. Instead of trying to play your way out of trouble in tight areas, giving the ball away and then it leading to a goal. So these are the decisions that are the balance of the team has improved in those last 2 home games. I keep saying it, today's a different day. It's an away game. We haven't picked a point up away from home. That's a good starting point for me as far as I'm concerned, but obviously 3 points would be massive.
Yeah, and yet obviously Tony to keep a clean sheet on the road as well. So you get the idea that because of the goals in the team, that if Leicester can keep a clean sheet, they probably will score today, hopefully. So that's a bonus anyway.
I was just going to pick up on what Tags was saying there, Dan, because Tags was talking about, that from a playing point of view. I think the other thing today really is to play the crowd, because if you go there as an away team, and we've been in this position where you go to a team where they're struggling. As I said, they haven't got a manager. The fans are going to be very edgy. Obviously they want their team to win, but if you go 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, you just contain them. Don't let them have too many chances. Just keep them outside of your box and that. The fans start groaning and moaning, and the players pick up on that as well. So it's, Leicester, I think, Tags is right. What Brennan wants, they want to get forward, they want to play, they want to be attacking and that. But maybe this is one of those games where doesn't have to be gung ho from minute 1. Play the crowd, play the game, play the occasion. That's what Leicester need to do today. You just defend well, keep them out, and then on the counter attack, we all know how good Leicester are. So there's got to be a game plan in place today. But I think they can certainly use that to their advantage and that, because this crowd, the Wolves crowd, are going to be very, very edgy. You've only got to look at their position. Yes, of course, they're above Leicester at the moment. But if Leicester were to win today, then they get pushed further down the table. There's going to be some edgy Wolves fans there today. So I think Leicester got to get their game plan right.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see plenty of goals from a Leicester point of view. We can take a look back actually now at some classic goals that have been scored against Wolves in fairly recent years.
Tied to his feet, he runs through the Wolves' defence like Kidd through a sweet shop. A pass to Chisholm. Goalie Williams parries the inside forward shot, but Griffith is there to send it back into the back of the net.
Half cleared. Oh, what a goal from Alan Smith! What a goal that was! Looking to turn, Dodd, good ball through to Linex. Lovely goal from Steve Linex.
Johnson sweeps it in, headed away, back with Mills, ball inside to Kelly, it's there! ball with Thompson. Finds Agnew. Looking on this far side for support. Finds it. Gary Mills. Floats it far post. In comes Roberts. Oh! What a way to start with your new club, Ewan Roberts. Thompson again. Sweeps it wide. Mills looks up for Roberts. Roberts is there. Speedy with a header. Roberts comes in. Everybody stands around. And that's the hallmark of a great striker. Ewan Roberts' second goal.
Good Johnson. Makes the corner. McCarthy header down. Goalkeeper has it. No! He's dropped it and it's in! Matt Bryant, third goal in 4 starts for Leicester City. Down the right flank to Ricardo, driving infield onto Maddison, edge of the box. Ricardo taken out. Maddison scores! He's off the mark at King Power Stadium, and Leicester City have doubled their lead just before half-time.
Harvey Barnes, who's back helping out. The bounce beats Ryan Bennett, and now Vardy might be away. Oh, good ball to Damari Gray. Damari Gray continues his run. He's into the box. Can he score? He does score! Maddison, delivery needs to be good. Time running out for the Foxes in search of an equaliser. Maddison with the delivery, it's deep. Wes Morgan! And Wes Morgan has got the header and the goal!
Still goalless on this opening Premier League game of the season, and Ricardo somehow has weaved his way through, and Vardy! And Leicester season has kicked off in style. Ricardo delivering the cross, and Vardy doing what Vardy does, he scores again.
Well, their goals against previous Wolves teams. Let's concentrate now on this current side, and we can hear from Liam Keane from the Express and Star newspaper and their interim manager, Steve Davis. It's been a busy week at Molineux. A win on Saturday against Forest was followed by a defeat to Palace in midweek, with some managerial drama thrown in between. Wolves have been without a manager since parting company with Bruno Lage at the start of October, and interim boss Steve Davis has subsequently been given the role until at least 2023.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was a good feeling to know that there's some longevity in it, and obviously we've been previously, working day to day and game to game, so it's nice now to be able to look forward and plan a bit more, and get a settled group and implement some other changes that we'd like to make. There's more to come from the group. On the other side of that, the flip side, we've got to start fighting more. We've got to start, doing the other bits, doing the bits that are really important as an individual and a group, where your interception, your tackles, your second balls, you're chasing back, you're working harder than the opponent. All those things are so important, added to the technical quality that we've got as well. So I think we've got to address both. We've got to try and get a balance, but I think at the moment the need is to work harder than the opposition, and I think we certainly are trying to do that now. We've seen that in the last couple of games, I think.
Injuries have been a real issue for Wolves so far this season, particularly in the forward department. Raul Jimenez is yet to hit his best form, and Diego Costa hasn't found the net since his move to the Midlands on a free. In their 11 games in the league this season, Wolves have only managed 5 goals.
They've been in some ways desperately unlucky, Wolves. Raul Jimenez is currently got a chronic groin injury. He's not played since the 31st of August, and we don't know at the moment when he might be playing again. Sasha Kalajic signed for 15 million on his debut, 40 minutes into his first appearance for Wolves, did his ACL. Wolves are then left with Fabio Silva's out on loan, and the transfer window is closed, and they've had to turn to a 33, now 34-year-old Diego Costa, who has looked, he brings a bit of character and gets fans off their seats and creates an atmosphere and puts his body on the line, but he's had to get his fitness up, and he's taking a little bit of time to get into his stride, and he's not looked particularly dangerous. That's fair to say. So that's been a major part of it, because Wolves need that focal point. And the games that they've played without starting a striker, they're having to play 5'4" Daniel Podence as a false 9, or Gonçalo Guedes, who was a summer signing who hasn't really hit the ground running. And when all of these forward-thinking wide players who historically haven't got a lot of goals in their career are now being relied upon as our only goal scorers, that's a big problem. So Wolves have not been able to find goals. They haven't been able to create a massive load of chances either, if we're being honest. And that's been the main problem. Defensively, they've been decent for the majority of the time.
It's clear there, Jerry, isn't it, why Wolves have struggled going forward, as we heard from Liam there.
Yeah, I say, defensively, they've conceded 10 less goals than Leicester. But when you look, Leicester have scored more than 3 times the amount of goals than Wolves. So that sort of shows you where the problem is. Just hearing about the injury issues that they've had, been really unlucky. But Leicester can't consider that in today's game. They've got to make sure that, for them, having as much control of this game and having as much say in how the game ebbs and flows as possible. Wolves, as Tony has said, they'll be just as edgy as the Leicester City fans are when teams come to King Power today. So they have to try and take advantage of that. And they all know that. I think it's Traore and Podence, two of the three players in the forward line have got 2 goals each this season. Costa, obviously, he's had to come in, but not up the full pace. And Neves is the other player with more than 1 goal. The only other player in a Wolves shirt that's got more than 1 goal this season for them. So, yeah, I'll go back there again, Dan, if you want. It's all about staying solid. Yeah. I've got no question whatsoever that Leicester can score today. And with the stats that are being chucked up as regards to Wolves going forward, then you've got to fancy yourselves as a backline to be able to keep a clean sheet. And knowing that if you can do that, then the likes of Maddison, Daka, who are all in good form coming into this game, Barnes as well, they can convert some chances at the other end.
Yeah, what do you make of the fact that Steve Davis, as the interim, has been sort of given that on a little bit of a semi-permanent basis until at least 2023. They obviously wanted a couple of managerial candidates that maybe didn't work out. They said that they didn't see anyone that was a standout to be replaced permanently, so that they've given it to Steve Davis for at least a few months.
Well, you've only got to look at Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth, Dan, and that can work, can't it? The old temporary manager. It quite obviously tells you that whoever Wolves fancied as their manager either is not available or can't do anything till the new year. And at least they've been positive. I think it's always positive to come out and say that Steve Davis is in charge now till January 2023, whatever it might be, because at least it gives the players the right signals, and it gives them a couple of months where they, all right, they haven't got a permanent manager, but the players know who's in charge, and it does give you half a chance. I saw Wolves early in the season down against West Ham. They was very, very poor. And that was after the game, they actually released Bruno Laga. And I think one of the telltale signs or questions that's being asked about this Wolves team, I think Steve Davis touched on it. What do they do when they haven't got the ball? Because we all know that they've got some good players. There's not too many better players on the ball than Ruben Neves, for example, in this Wolves team. There's not too many people quicker than Adama Traore. Not too many players more aggressive than Diego Costa. But that's all right going forward and doing all your forward stuff. But you've got to do the other side of the game. I was at Everton yesterday. I watched an Everton team against Palace work their socks off and put Palace under pressure. Good players like Wilf Sahar, Seamus Coleman got really tight with him and he didn't get a kick. And that's what's got to be done today. If you stand off Traore and let him run at you, he's going to cause you all sorts of problems. You stand off Neves, he will create and he'll spray the ball around the field. So Leicester, as I said, they've got to defend properly, as me and Tags have said. You've got to get amongst them and that, because they want to do that physical side of the game. They all want to look pretty and pass the ball around. Have they got that physical attribute to get amongst it? And I think Leicester can put them off that and get the crowd against them. And that would be my game plan from Brendan's point of view.
Showing fight, basically, Jerry,
Yeah,
is what Tony's saying there.
It's a good point he makes, because psychologically, if you match them and outwork the opponents, then psychologically, you know, they will fall back and go on the back foot and go back into their shell, because, you know, Steve Davis has mentioned it, that you know, they don't work hard enough. And so if you want to put them on the back foot, then your starting point is outworking them, getting amongst them, and psychologically putting them on the back foot, keeping them down there, keeping them in the shell, and then hopefully that in itself turns the game in your favour over the course of the 90 minutes.
I believe we've got Matt Elliott in position, do we, at Molineux? Apparently it was sunny earlier, Matt. I don't know if that's still the case. It always seems to rain when Leicester go to Wolves.
Yeah, it's grim enough over here, Batesy. The clouds are swooshing over the stadium here. There's a little bit of blue sky patches there, but I think rain is forecast, I believe. It's going to be pretty damp, cloudy at best. But did I hear you mention the term semi-permanent there, Batesy, already?
Absolutely. I'm Matt Elliott in today.
You tried to get that in before I came on, didn't you? You thought I wouldn't hear, but I did. I caught you.
Oh dear. So you managed to make it on time today, anyway, Matt?
Don't. I've had an absolute stinker, which is about standard for me on away trips, isn't it, one way or another? I came up, you get to the stadium, I got here about 12 o'clock, and then, but you have to mooch around, and the roads were shut outside where the car park is. I had to loop right round, and it's blocked the other end of the road. Then I turned up, the media pass wasn't there. I'm officially Abigail Davis from Sky TV today, and I've got the picture to prove it, which is casting a few suspect looks. And then I got there, worst of all, I got to the food tray. I've got 10 minutes before I'm on air, and they run out of meat. So they had to go and change the tray, and I didn't have time to sample it, did it? So fuming, it's fair to say.
Yeah, and you've got to talk to me as well, which just makes things even worse.
Yeah, just
Matt.
to top it off.
What are you expecting today? We've been talking, and Tony's been saying that Leicester maybe need to take advantage of what could be an edgy Wolves crowd today.
Yeah, you would imagine that. I mean, what is it? Just looking at their record, they lost 4 of the last 5, and a patchy 1-0 win against Forest. In the mix there as well, so obviously confidence is going to be low, and for the reasons you've just been mentioning there, why they've struggled, justifiable to some degree, but in other ways not. The interim manager there, like you say, saying that they perhaps could work harder. That's quite a strong thing to label to your players, isn't it? Whatever your managerial situation, they've got quality without a doubt, haven't they? You look through the ranks there, the centre-half pairing, Collins and Kilman, both decent players sort of in the early stages of their career, but they're still sort of prone to make mistakes and errors, and forge a genuine partnership maybe, but in the middle of the park, Neves and Moutinho, isn't it, there? I mean, again, undoubted quality, but mobility perhaps questionable. There's an area where Leicester can look to have an impact maybe, and like you say, and some of the other players are excellent at times but a bit temperamental. When they click, they're a force, aren't they? But when it's not happening for them, they're a little bit suspect maybe, mentality wise, but difficult team to play against. But they're having a patchy run themselves, aren't they? And as the boys have said, it's a great opportunity. You've got to be a Leicester player coming into this thinking, right, let's go and double up on what we did on Thursday night, try and consolidate the situation and ultimately draw themselves, it seems strange to say it even these days, but drag themselves out of that bottom 3 and get themselves back on track. And today's as good an opportunity as you can ask for, in fairness.
A quick final word on the midfield, Matt. You were talking about how Leicester can maybe exploit Neves and Moutinho. We saw Bouba Samara, he's starting to really grow into things, isn't he, in that midfield? Some really good driving runs against Leeds on Thursday. Yeah, that's
an obvious strength of his, and I think he looks to have a good all-round game. He looks a natural footballer. He moves well, doesn't he? He's got a nice touch on the ball, with just a little bit of lack of awareness at times, or a little bit of hesitancy, and the odd extra touch has caused him problems, or a little loose pass when a little bit of sloppiness, but without doubt he's got ability. And it seems he's one of those players, as is the case most of the time, the more he plays, the more confident he's going to get, and the more used to his surroundings he is. Like he's standing sort of within the team. He's not there just as an out-and-out replacement or a substitute for Wilfred and Didi. He can play multiple roles as well, which is another string to his bow. But he's a powerful boy as well, isn't he? He's got a physique and a presence in there. But he's got good natural ability, and I can bring a lot to the game. I think, naturally, he's probably more forward-thinking than the role he's playing. So I don't think it comes automatically to him to just sit in that defensive midfield position, and sometimes his awareness of opposition is put to the test. But that's something that Brendan Rodgers, I'm sure, will help him develop, and he seems to be doing it pretty impressively over recent times.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. You've got about 10 minutes to quickly rush down to the media room and try and get a little bit of food.
I've given up, mate. I've given up. I've had enough. Right,
let's get a quick recap of today's team news. Matt Elliott there was speaking, of course, about Bouba Soumaré. Obviously, he retains his place in the middle of midfield for Leicester City. James Maddison comes back in, though. Dennis Pratt, it was a good performance on Thursday, but Maddison, obviously, has been on fantastic form this season, so he returns. Danny Ward's in goal. Justin Fast, Amate and Castagna at the back four. Soumaré, Dewsbury Hall and Tielemans in the midfield, with Barnes and Maddison supporting Patson Daka. And from a Wolves point of view, Sarr is in goal, Bueno is the left back, Collins and Kilman the two central defenders, with Johnny at right back. It's a midfield three potentially of Moutinho, Neves and Nunes, with Podence and Adama Traore either side of former Chelsea man Diego Costa. Let's hear now from Brendan Rodgers then. He was asked how his Leicester City team can build on Thursday's game leading into today's against Wolves.
Well, it's going to be difficult, but again, we have to learn from that. We went into our next game and we played very well up until a point, and then we conceded 2 poor goals. So we've been reiterating since that about the importance of having that desire to win, and the importance of everyone collectively staying strong and staying together, and I think we've seen that tonight. So you get no guarantees, but if you can bring that mentality like we had tonight into the next game, then we have a great chance of getting a result.
What did you make of that? Have you come across him before?
No, I remember Steve playing as a player a number of years ago, and he was a very good centre half, and obviously he'd managed down in I think it was Crewe, I think it was as well. So, and now there's lots of guys around the country that do great work working with the under-23s and 18s, and I believe he's a boyhood supporter of Wolves, so this will be a great honour and a privilege for him to manage the club. So yeah, but I haven't come across Steve, so I look forward to meeting him at the weekend.
On Harvey, this time last year, he was seen as one of the players in your squad that was challenging for international. And that performance tonight probably shows why. But how do you rate his sort of progress over the last 12 months?
Yeah, he's been great, and he was up against a tough opponent tonight. I've seen the right back for Leeds, and he's strong, he's aggressive, he runs forward well. But I thought Harvey was outstanding again. He gets his goal and he's in there, and now he's a real catalyst for us. So delighted for him. He can only keep performing and playing well, and see where it takes him.
I mean, perhaps the performances haven't been there this season. I mean, running alongside the team's form, has that been a problem maybe?
Yeah, he's still been a threat for us. Barnsley's still some really good moments in games. He's been excellent. We've just at times defensively not been as solid as what we wanted to be, and then of course that's reflective on certain individuals. But I think he's still a really, really important player for us when he's in the top of his game like he was tonight. He's a real handful and he's a real threat.
What does it say about your team you're willing to make him the captain after the game where John's been out? Even though he's going to get in his contract, there's going to be lots of talk about it.
He's an example of professionalism, and like I said, even though the situation he's in, how committed he is, and like I said, I've never seen a change from Yuri since when he first joined to now. His commitment's there, his quality's there. What he allows me to do on the field, like tonight, his cleverness to get into those positions, He's a fantastic footballer, and no, I know he was very honoured to lead the team out these last couple of games.
That was Brendan Rodgers speaking ahead of the game against Wolves. What are we now? 15 minutes away from kick-off. That means we've got time to very quickly do predictions with both Jerry and Tony. Tony, I'll start with you.
I'm confident today, Dan. I'm going for a 2-1 Leicester win.
I'm going 2-0 Leicester.
2-0.
2-0. Clean sheet.
3 clean sheets.
Clean sheet. Come on, boys.
Absolutely, yes. We all agree with Jerry's sentiment there. Let's hope Leicester can keep another clean sheet and get another 3 points and really build on that win on Thursday. Coming up next, obviously, we've got full commentary of the whole game. We'll be back again at half-time and then again at full-time. But it is time to pass, after a short break, to Matt Elliott and James Fielden.
Because memories never fade, no matter how long. We'll still remember the moments of excitement and the impressions of Thailand. Amazing Thailand, now even more amazing.
Lamiat is the belief that perfection lies within the details, where the finest ingredients deserve the finest craftsmanship. In every pursuit of perfection, there is passion and perseverance, where attention to detail inspires a masterpiece that's balanced and in harmony. This is the Lamiat philosophy, brewed into every drop of Chang beer. This is the taste of Thai perfection. Chang beer. We brew friendship.
Me okay, yeah?
Hello, good afternoon everyone and welcome along to Molineux. The sun is shining and it's all Midlands here in the Premier League this afternoon, this Sunday lunchtime, as two of the bottom three meet here with Wolverhampton Wanderers hosting Leicester City. Well, it hasn't been a campaign to remember for either of these two sides so far, just 2 wins apiece, and although Leicester have had 2 days fewer to prepare for this one, they do arrive off the back of that win against Leeds on Thursday. Not only another win, but another clean sheet, which is their 3rd in 4 games as they continue to keep things tight at the back, despite injuries getting in the way once again. Wolves have had a tricky season, to say the least, and announced this week the interim duo of Steve Davis and James Collins will take charge until after the World Cup, after a couple of rejections already for their vacant head coach position. They were beaten down at Crystal Palace on Tuesday for their 4th defeat in 5, and although it's a team that doesn't concede too many goals, they have a paltry goal tally of just 5 goals at the right end so far this season, and 3 here at home this season. Leicester know what's ahead of them here, and a win for either side today will give them the opportunity to move out of the bottom 3, depending on results elsewhere. Taking his seat in the director's box, former Led Zeppelin great Robert Plant, but I've got a former Leicester City great alongside me, Matt Elliott. Matt, you've beaten the traffic, you've beaten the parking restrictions, you're here, and all is good in the world.
Yeah, it was only by the skin of my teeth, but all's well that ends well. Yeah, ready and prepared to watch the spectacle that's about to unfold in front of us.
Let's recap the team news for Leicester. Ward in goal, Castagna, Amati, Fass and Justin. Tielemans the skipper, Soumare and Dewsbury Hall in midfield. Madison, Daka and Barnes across the front. Daka in for Vardy today, Madison back from suspension, Pratt dropping out. What do we make of that team? As expected, Vardy's been in and out recently and continues to lead the way today.
Yeah, they seem to be rotating, Daka and Vardy, don't they? 60 minutes on, half hour off, and then that's being reversed. I think it's probably a preordained plan, but at the same time, I think it's partially because neither of them really hit it off of late. You know, they're both doing a job for the team. Goals have been a premium for the two of them, haven't they, really? And at the moment, I think Brendan's probably waiting for one to sort of strike a vein of form that he can keep one of them in there for a little bit longer. Although Vardy, obviously, I think he'll be managed ongoingly now, probably for the remainder of his career. But yeah, either way gives Leicester a good option, doesn't it, up the top? Both, you know, about Jamie Vardy and Daka, of course, is an out-and-out goal scorer, needs to develop the rest of his game, maybe.
As for the rest of the team, pretty much picks itself at the moment, doesn't it? Everyone's slotting into their correct positions, shape that we've seen many times before.
Yeah. The only possible area of contention is, you know, how well Dennis Pratt did on Thursday night. Hugely influential on both goals. But this James Maddison, after all, is always going to come straight back in, isn't he, really? I think you could perhaps look at Pratt coming in elsewhere in the middle of the park. And then Dewsbury Hall was excellent himself. Is Tielemans going to be resting for Pratt? Not at this moment in time. Perhaps down the line Pratt can put a bit of pressure on Youri Tielemans, but yeah, you're right, the team does pretty straightforward for Brendan, isn't it?
And as for Wolves, one, what have you seen of them this season? And two, what have you made of them? Because they are a side that have really plummeted this campaign, haven't they?
Yeah, they've had to struggle. They've got quality, without a doubt. You look at that team sheet of theirs, and you know, on the face of it, you'd be quite impressed in terms of sort of reputations or growing reputations in terms of some players there. But you know, the sacking of Bruno Lage is evidence itself that things are not right. The goal scoring that's been spoken about, or the lack of, should I say, and also there's a sort of little bit of lack of mobility in certain areas in that team. So they've been sort of treading a fine line for a while, haven't they? They've never been.
Yeah, form this season was an extension of last, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've really turned into a bit of a boring side to watch.
It's always been sort of borderline one way or the other, hasn't it? You know, even when things are going really well.
Marginal.
Yeah, it was like tight games all the time, wasn't it? You know a lot more about Wolves than I do. But whenever you see them, they would, although strangely, two fixtures against Leicester were free scoring and high scoring, weren't they? But by and large, it was, you know, almost like, all right, we'll stay in the game. Or even if they took the lead in the game, they'd just sit on it and not try and extend the lead. It made for not particularly exciting viewing. Hopefully it'll be different today. Although I think they're going to be, I think Leicester will probably be the more adventurous from the outset, maybe. They'll have the more positive intentions. I mean, Wolves will be talking about containment first and foremost, and then perhaps nicking something. I don't know, I may be wrong, the game may develop a different way, but Leicester probably the slightly more confident of the two at the moment.
Well, the sun's shining here in Wolverhampton. It hasn't been a day to remember so far. It's been very miserable, very wet. It was pouring with rain first thing this morning, but things have dried up since then. The meeting of these two teams. Haven't been too many goals in recent meetings between the two clubs. In fact, there were 4 last season, but in the 4 games before that, there was just 1 single goal since a 4-3 win here for Wolves back in 2019. But the two sides have changed considerably since then. And just about everyone inside now taking their seats. It's a sellout crowd here this afternoon at Molineux. Brendan Rodgers and his side with a win at home and a draw before that, no goals conceded. Wolves with a defeat at Palace on Tuesday. They won here against Nottingham Forest last Saturday by a single goal to nil. A pretty turgid game. Defeats before that at Chelsea, West Ham, and here against Manchester City as well. We are just waiting for the two sides to make their way out here. The flamethrowers going off in front of us here to give us all a bit of a warm-up on this Sunday. Number of Premier League games this afternoon, not just here, also at Aston Villa, not too far down the road as they take on Brentford. It's Leeds against Fulham, Southampton against Arsenal, and the late game today, Tottenham against Newcastle.
Number 28, Joe Routinho.
In terms of Wolves, Matt Elliott as well, Diego Costa, a striker, not quite the one that we saw in the Premier League however many years ago now at Chelsea, but someone that probably offers a different kind of profile to most strikers in the league.
Yeah, he certainly does, doesn't he? It'd be a challenge, wouldn't it, for Fass and Amati this afternoon. I'm sure Fass will be aware of him, probably never come up against him, but it'll be a good learning curve for him, shall we say. You know, we know how wily that Costa can be, and I don't know, I suppose coming in, he's not going to run the channels too much, etc. So you're okay, you're quite comfortable in that respect. But he brings that little bit of nous, doesn't he? He brings that platform for the front midfield players to try and find early and bounce things off him. And you know, we know he's got an eye for goal. He's robust and dangerous in the penalty area. So it's going to be a physical challenge, but one that I think that Fass and Amati are certainly capable of standing up to.
Yeah, well, Fass has done very well so far. Shalasunchi back on the bench today, by the way. The players on their way. A massive game at Molineux between two of the bottom three, and both in need of the Premier League points. The Foxes, after a first away win of the season and first league win here since 2006, goal-shy Wolves were beaten at Palace to make it just 2 wins from their last 18 games. Let's recap the team news for you once again. Leicester City today lining up with Danny Ward in goal, Timothy Castagna, Daniel Amati, Wout Fass and James Justin across the back. Bouba Soumaré holding things in midfield with Yuri Tielemans the skipper and Kiernan Dewsbury Hall just ahead of him. Maddison off the right-hand side, Barnes off the left, technically at least, and Daka starting through the middle. A man who's done well recently away from home. 3 goals he's been involved in Leicester's last 3 away games. But Matt, 5 successive defeats, there must be something behind it.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you look at the difference in goals for between these two teams, and you know, you're left sort of scratching your head as to how things could be so dire in terms of positional sense for the Foxes. But you don't have to look very far to see why. You know, the goals conceded, they've been too open, they've been too loose. Individual errors as well in the mix, but it's been a collective without doubt. At times they've been cut open. They've shored that up. 3 out of 4 is it now? Clean sheets has been said about. We're looking to add to that today, and I think they've reined it in a little bit, haven't they? Certainly in the full-back positions. Struggling to be heard over the background noise and the singing here, but home fans making themselves heard, that's for sure. But yeah, fullbacks have reined it in a bit, probably even more so here today away from home. This is going to be a bigger test for them. You know, keeping that clean sheet away from home hasn't happened at all, I think, this season. Albeit against Wolves, who don't score many. So now's your opportunity, boys. Also in midfield, Yuri Tielemans has been sitting a little bit deeper than more than he would do ordinarily, assisting Soumaré there. So there's a little bit more solidity about Leicester's play.
Yeah, Leicester with 5 defeats and 5 on the road. They've only ever lost 6 away games in a row once at the start of the season in their history, back in 1957, when they actually managed to lose their first 9 games in a row. Hopefully the rot will be stopped today. Of course, the last away game, defeat down at Bournemouth, a game they started well in but lost. They started well at Tottenham and lost 6-2. They started well at Brighton and lost 5-2. Good starts, by no means a good thing at the moment for Leicester on the road. Hopefully they can get it done in the conventional way today, in a game that is by no means a derby, not too much distance between the sides geographically, but always a bit of extra something when these two meet. Everyone ready to go. The 2 keepers in between the posts. The captains have done the coin toss, and it will be Leicester to get us underway. Yuri Tielemans standing over the ball inside the centre circle. James Maddison flicks Diego Costa's nipples on his way past, just trying to get in his head early doors. And the sun is shining brightly. We are getting ready to go here in the Black Country for Wolverhampton Wanderers against Leicester City. Both sides looking to kick on after their games in midweek. Leicester after back-to-back wins. Referee for this one today is Michael Oliver. Both sides in their traditional home colours. No need to change for this one. And they are just waiting for the signal to get underway. The clock has struck 2 and Michael Oliver gets us started. Wolves against Leicester City, and Leicester in possession at the back with Daniel Amati, who finds Castagna into Soumare on the halfway line. He's looking ahead of him but doesn't really have a ball on, so goes back to Castagna, who in turn goes back to Amati. Back to Danny Ward, the goalkeeper. All 3 of Leicester's clean sheets.